For our next keynote, you'll be hearing from Imran Khan, co-founder and CEO at Verishop. Imran will be interviewed by Shoptalk's Vice President of Content, Joe Laszlo.
Thank you.
Theater of Retail.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us, Imran.
Thanks for having me.
I have to kick things off by saying the shirt is from Lords of Harlech, bought on Verishop. So thank you for helping me find a nice shirt for Shoptalk this year.
Yeah, when you're shopping at Verishop, you're supporting independent and emerging brands, small businesses.
Let's start by talking about the genesis of Verishop. You are not a retail guy, although I guess you are these days. How did you get drawn into this industry?
So I think, when I was leaving Snapchat, one of the biggest trend I saw, and I continue to believe that individual creators are democratizing different industry. And we saw that over the last 20 years in the content industry. Content creators democratize the content industry. And now I think a lot of these independent, direct-to-consumer, emerging brands are disrupting retail industry. Because at the end of the day, what is a brand? A brand is a promise. And there are a lot of people who has incredible idea, a mission for a product, and they're building these small businesses. And what I thought was missing in the industry is a community to support those brands. And that's Verishop Group is all about. We help these small businesses to get more distribution. Somebody who might build these great brands like Chewy's. I'm saying Chewy brand yet. So somebody who is building a really cool brand, and we help them get more distribution through Verishop.com. We help them tell their story through our Verishop Retail Media Ad Network. And also, we have lots of software solutions to help them save more money and be more effective.
Yeah, so D2C brands have been around for a while. The whole point of D2C is that they kind of set up their own storefront and sell directly to the consumer. They're high-profile successes, some high-profile not successes. Talk to me about the kinds of brand creators that Verishop works with. You've got 3,000 so far, or 3,000 companies, 5,000 brands on the platform. What's the typical brand like as far as size, revenue-wise, customers-wise?
Yeah, I think if you look at Verishop, again, we really focus on this independent and emerging brands. And so we have brands that are doing as much as $30 million to $50 million a year. And then we have a lot of brands who are doing $1 million. And our job is really, finding these brands with a great promise and how can we help them get more distribution, whether it's on Verishop, owned and operated properties, or outside Verishop through our media network.
Yeah. There's a whole industry these days helping influencers create product brands and kind of get those out, kind of trading on their social media-backed fame. But there also kind of feels like that market is getting overcrowded. I just read an article about influencer beauty brands kind of having a bit of a shakeout. Like, what defines those maker-led brands that you feel like are going to succeed, are going to be a good fit on Verishop's platform?
So I think content creators and brand creators are two different groups of people. Now, obviously, if you create two circles, there will be some overlaps.
There's overlap, sure.
But I think what makes somebody a great content creator, it's they could be a great singer, they could be a great dancer, they could be a great narrator. But somebody who is a great brand creator, they build great product with a great mission, with a great vision. So it's a little bit of a different, and so you need the product skill set. So I think, again, we'll see some influencer-led brand, and I'm sure they will do a lot of revenues, but I think ultimately, shoppers are, I would say, incredibly smart. They are looking for product that's consistent with their mission or the stories they believe in. They're looking for product that has high quality. They really care about price. They really care about post-purchase experiences. So we think, so I think you'll see two different kind of, and I think if you look at our platform, yes, we do have influencer brands like Favorite Daughters, they have a lot of followers, we have them, but we also have, if you look at the vast majority of the brands, these are people who are really good at building product, building great, the shirt that you bought, things like that.
Yeah. Inevitably, in any marketplace, there's bigger and smaller brands. Have you deliberately set out to find companies that would be kind of like the anchor tenants in an old school mall, like bigger brands that help draw customers to Verishop, who then kind of find the smaller brands?
It's an interesting question. And when we first started, that's how we did focus on that, right? Because I think one of the things we wanted to avoid that, shoppers come to our platform and they don't recognize any of the brands, And so one of the things we have done, we created this platform that, while we support those independent emerging brands, we actually, we're not exclusive to only small businesses. If the bigger businesses want to come to our platform, we welcome them. And by doing so, we actually help validate those small businesses and help them grow more.
Yeah, I think you can build a virtuous community, and I certainly think it helps to have some big companies in the mix that already have an audience that can then be turned on to some of the smaller companies. Let's talk about, in a little more detail, some of the things that you do for the brands on the Verishop platform, in the Verishop community, right? I think there is a perspective, Bill just expressed it on stage, that marketplaces sort of sometimes compete with the brands that are on the marketplace, and I think some of the things that Verishop does speak to another sort of form of relationship between the marketplace and a brand.
Yeah, I think when we started Verishop, my mission was to help those independent emerging brands thrive. And to date, that hasn't changed, and we're not going to do anything that compromise supporting those brands. So I'll give you some examples how we help brands, right? So we have, so obviously the most obvious one is they can come list on Verishop. We get tens of millions of people visit our site over a year, and they can sell on our platform. We are now also partnering with media companies to create white label site, we'll announce soon that brands will be able to, when they come to Verishop, they'll not only be able to list on verishop.com, but all of our partner site. So that's one distribution. The second thing we have done is really build a premium media retail network, right? So I think one of the, I think if you're a small business, you only get to advertise on social media, like, everybody is, talking about small businesses, but they're all trying to take your dollar, and social medias are populated with, hundreds of thousands of small businesses. But if you look at the traditional media, like whether it's television or whether it's these big media publications, there are a lot of opportunities, and you're not competing with those that many small businesses. It's really dominated by the larger players. So we really we have a great partnership with NBC. We have a great partnership with a lot of media companies and we are packaging them as a bite size so that small businesses can access them and can generate, drive, and build the brands.
Yeah, so I feel pretty confident that retail media networks are going to be one of the most checked boxes on the Shoptalk bingo card this year, alongside generative AI and a few other things. So I think it's really interesting that you're pushing retail media network opportunities kind of beyond just Verishop's universe, app, website, et cetera, and towards TV and
100%,
things like that.
Because again, our mission is really not to, we're not, the problem with a lot of the social media, they are the publishers and they try to keep every dollar. And they will do everything to prove, I ran that why their ad is the great. We are the neutral player that's supporting those independent brands. They can sell on Verishop, they sell other platforms. We want these small businesses to be successful, and I'll talk about some of the software things. I think there are 700 different software technology companies here. We are partnering with that's overwhelming for a small business, right? If you have a small business and you have a $10 million, $20 million, or $30 million business, and if I come to you and say that, hey, there are 700 service provider, technology provider to talk to, how do you really sort through it? Do you have time? You don't have enough people. And what we are doing is we're curating these technology partners for them. And then we're negotiating the great rate so that small businesses can access the rate at a rate that a larger brands can get. By having 5,000 brands on our platform, by creating this union, we now have a buying power of a large businesses. So, we have partnership with NetSuite, we have a partnership with FedEx, we have partnership with packaging company, we have partnership with manufacturers, right? If you want to build something, we can help you find manufacturers. So all of those things that we are doing, we recently, I'm really proud of what we have done. One of the problems that we heard from a lot of our apparel brand, the clothing brands, that the very high return rate. So we partner with actually one of our brand founder to create this software called Rekeep It. And now when a shopper buys something, when they check out, it offers them that, hey, if you agree to not to return the product, you will get a discount. Because a lot of the clothing brands, they don't want to have final sell because that cheapen your brand. But by offering that, you're offering final sell, but without cheapening your brand. And for one brand, it saved like $1 million. And that's real meaningful impact, and that's what we really focus on. Like, how can we help small businesses grow? Verishop is all about helping small businesses grow. And, this is my fourth part of a career, and I really wanted to do something that we can really help people while building an enterprise, and that's Verishop is all about.
So that's super interesting, right? So Rekeep, idea is I'm shopping, could be Verishop, could be someplace else, and I see a price for my shirt, which I really love, and a second price at a discount that says you can pay this price if you promise not to return this thing, right?
Return is a huge problem for the industry, right? Some of the clothing brands have 50, 60% return rate. So if you can reduce the return rate, it helps you improve profitability, and also it's great for the environment.
It may be too soon to say, but you mentioned one of your brands is saving $1 million by doing this. Are there any other stats you can speak to from the shopper side? Like are people gravitating towards this idea?
Yeah, I think we saw the conversion actually increased. We also saw, because it's an opt-in, and we also saw that, I think 20% of the shoppers actually opted in for it when they purchased something. So great results. So this is what we're really trying to do. We want to find this unique software that we can vet and push it out to our brands so that our brands can compete with Canada Goose, that our brands can compete with, big brands.
Yeah. It's nice to be following Bill from Pinterest, right? The Pinterest theme was bringing joy back to shopping, and I feel like that's something that is really important to Verishop as well. So turning from how you work with your brand creator community to how you work with shoppers, customers, can you speak a little bit to what's resonating with them as far as creating a fun, inspiring shopping experience?
Yeah, so one of the things we did is that because we have all these independent emerging brands, and they're not so well known, how can we help them tell their stories? And the video is the best way to tell the stories. So we created live streaming, we have shoppable videos, we have brands can create, video reviews. And what we found is that when we have live streaming or we have shoppable videos or we have video reviews, it improves our conversion by 42%. So we see real improvement in conversion pickup. I think the second biggest thing we learned that to make the social shopping work, you also need to make sure the post-purchase experience is great. One of the greatest things that I learned in my career, that you cannot go offer a consumer something new and take something that they don't like. And that's why I think a lot of the social companies completely failed in social shopping, because they really focus on the front end of the experience, but then when you try to purchase, the post-purchase experience is terrible, right? And I interviewed so many people who bought in Instagram shopping, and I heard stories like terrible stories, like really poor customer experience. And so I think one of the things we have done is that we really created the best post-purchase experience. Our NPS is over 70. On top of that, bringing those great experience that improve shoppers, make the most educated decision.
How do you blend that post-purchase experience between the stuff that you can control, because you're Verishop and you have that direct customer relationship, versus the things that you can't control, because like Lords of Harlech sent me this shirt and kind of was responsible for like the actual shipping of it?
So one of the things we have done is that we really, really invested heavily. So we're a marketplace, right? We don't have a warehouse, we don't own the inventory, we don't touch the product, but we really invested heavily to have a complete experience so that we can track everything, and so that from a shopper perspective, you feel like you are only dealing with Verishop. So I'll give you an example. So a brand can be on our platform in less than 30 minutes. One of the biggest learning I learned from Snapchat, that we have to create a self-service platform when you're dealing with large volume. So we created a self-service platform. You can be on our platform in 30 minutes or less. During that 30 minutes, we have all the information we need to know. Where your product located, if somebody returns the product, where the product needs to be returned. When you fulfill, can we track the product, all the product information, variants, all the colors, everything. So that when you bought the shirt, we automatically get notified. Obviously, you purchase the product, we send it to the merchant, and then our system tracks all the way the product gets delivered. So if any time that SLA is missing, we get an alert, and then our team follow up with the merchant team, say what's going on. So we automated all those things, and it took a long time, but I think we built this first-party experience in a third-party environment.
Interesting. So it's a very data-driven, kind of transparent, kind of full information to you guys, and then in turn to your shopper about kind of what's going on in the post-purchase journey. I think that's really neat. I want to come back really quickly to live streaming because it feels like there's a fair amount of skepticism about that as something that a large number of American shoppers want to partake of. So can you say a little bit more about how live streaming is working on Verishop and kind of ways that you're thinking about the ROI from live streams?
Yeah, I know. I think one of the things people talk about China, like for example, live streaming is great, but live streaming is very creator-driven. So right, even if you look at, and I'll share my understanding, I know Alibaba guys for a long time. I actually took them public. And if you look at Alibaba's live streaming GMV, almost half of them come from 3 creators. So it's a very, very top heavy. So I don't think it's different in the United States also. So I think we'll see live streaming growth, but it will be driven by talent's personality and how much a talent has. I think some of the interesting challenge in the United States is, in China, for example, there are 90 cities. There are more than 1 million people live in 90 cities. In the United States, probably 15 or 20, right? So a lot of those big cities don't have the retail infrastructure. So the live streaming actually helped them to understand content. So that's not relevant in the United States. And then also the post-purchase experience and things like that. So I think the US market is very different than international market. But what we learned from live streaming is that once people engage with the live stream, conversion rate is like 3x higher, 4x higher. So, but I think the challenge in the United States is how can you get people engaged with live, because when nobody watches live TV, unless you're watching sports, how can you get people engaged? And that's a much harder thing, and I think that will be driven by talent.
Yeah, you've also talked about investing in some automated tools that will take a live stream, like once it's done, and kind of slice and dice it.
That works really well. So one of the things we have done that as soon as the live streaming ends, our machine learning takes those videos and cut them into mini clips, and it shows up into the product review pages. And so that shows very high conversion rate, and that's super helpful.
That sounds like the kind of thing that would be very labor intensive to do.
It's completely automated.
Interesting. So the ROI of a live stream kind of comes a little bit from the live moment, but
the library
much more from the evergreen content that's created after.
Yeah, I think the library is incredibly powerful. And look, any content business, long time ago I was a media analyst. I'm dating myself. You make money on the movie theater, but actually library is a very powerful. So I think one of the things we have done now, we have created these thousands of hours of library video. That's, I think, is really interesting. As
we start to wrap up, I want to talk about stores. The theater of retail, physical stores are back in an exciting way. Verishop so far is mostly e-commerce only. What do you think about, there's companies like Leap and New Store and Neighborhood Goods that help small brands actually kind of create a physical storefront for themselves. Is that something you guys are interested in or thinking about?
So I think those are great. I don't think Verishop will do it per se ourselves. Like, I don't think you'll see Verishop stores. But I think where we see the opportunities is, like, for example, we have a partnership with a company called Retail, named Retail. And what they do is they are building pop-ups in hotels, in spa, and in like open spaces. And what we are doing through this partnership, our brands can now create physical presence and create more brand awareness. So again, Verishop is all about leveling the playing field. So we're not going to go build stores, but we're going to bring those opportunities to our brand community, and so that they can tell their stories however they want to tell the story and help them grow.
Yeah. This is, it goes without saying, a challenging moment for startups. Who would have thought 3 weeks ago that we might be talking about like bank failures and whatnot? I'm not going to ask you about your bank. Don't worry about that. But how are you making sure that Verishop has the resilience to weather like whatever might happen next?
Yeah, no, I think this is a great question. And anybody who is startup, I actually think worse is yet to come for startup world, and because there is a lag between public market and private market. And I think we built a decade of bad habits, and everybody raised too much money, and and really didn't focus on discipline, and including me. I'll take the responsibility as well. And so I think the environment for private companies will be very, very challenging for next 2 years. So I think one of the things that we are really focused on, maniacally focused on, can we build a profitable business? Ultimately, I used to, 2003, I was an Amazon analyst covering Amazon at JP Morgan, and I used to say that, you can give product for free and can do a lot of revenue unless you can generate profit. And I think, the important thing, Amazon started making money when this got into the advertising business, and over time, they gained the market share. So I think the really interesting thing is that all of us need to be, be more disciplined, be more focused, and I think, we're trying to do that in Verishop, and I think if you have a startup, you should do that as well.
So it's about helping small businesses connect with an audience that's going to love them and making money along the way.
Yeah, I think, if we are successful, our partners will be successful, and it's all about making, create an ecosystem where everybody can thrive.
That's a great way to end the conversation. So Imran, thank you so much for joining me on stage. Thank you for the shirt as well.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.